this thing is going to actually happen. And once the merge actually happens, then I expect like morale is going to go way up, right? Like I basically expect that the merge is going to be kind of not priced in, by which I mean like not even just like market terms, but even just kind of like psychological and narrative terms.
Remember, we've been talking about the merge for 5 years.
Okay.
So, let me be the skeptic. This is my largest position right now. ETH has moved up and put it at the top of the heap of my 32 positions. I'm a skeptic till I see it happen, because you got to think about who loses in the merge, and if you're a miner right now, you're not loving this merge idea, and there's a lot of capital tied up in that. And so when it happens, I'll believe it, but we have seen this thing punted down the road 5 times. So what makes you so confident it's going to happen?
Convinced that we will destroy, unfortunately, a lot of employment. Just think of self-guided cars and all the drivers losing their jobs. Let's look at the bank employees and so on.
If you're left behind, you're facing something far worse, which is to be completely irrelevant. They won't even need you as a serf or as a slave.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think. And we have Kevin or Larry, just like everyone else. He has to see it to believe it. The Ethereum merge is days away. And he says it's his largest position. And I think everything is going to go smoothly. But we're not going to see it in the price. Remember, 10 years is the magic number. And I think Ethereum was first released in 2015. And we know the Fed is going to be shrinking even more liquidity. But everyone thinks they're going to pivot. But the Fed clearly said they're going to get to 4% hell or high water. And we know by raising rates and shrinking liquidity, that's going to cause a lot of unemployment. But we know the NWO caused the problem. Wait for the reaction and run in with the solution. We know they want to destroy this current economy. So therefore, the 4th industrial revolution can rise, whether robots, algorithms, and drones take over the economy and the sheep go inside the metaverse. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
I think there's only one thing that really matters when it comes to the investment proposition relative to the Federal Reserve. Do you believe them or not? Yeah. And it seems like on days when we're in the green, it's a day not to believe the Fed. And days when we're in the red, we believe the Fed. So give us some guidance about whether or not to believe these guys when they say they're going to do what they say they're going to do.
I think you got to believe the Fed. I think, in particular, after the chair's very effective speech at JH, the message I got is very clear. Failure is not an option to Jay Powell. So I think the uncertainty is how high will rates have to go and how long will they have to stay there to bring inflation down into the 2s. But you got to believe the Fed now. I think they've made that very clear. And I've been surprised how unified the messaging is among other members of the committee on this point. So you got to believe the Fed.
My understanding is they're not really coordinating this. They're just sort of speaking from the same book here when it comes to, I always said, like, you wake up in the morning and if you're a central banker, you hate inflation. You may be a dove or a hawk, but you're against inflation.
Yeah.
Let me turn to another question, because on the one hand, the Fed says they're data dependent. On the other hand, we hear these numbers like 4%, and they're kind of guiding us to this number. Is this data dependent, or are they going to 4% come hell or high water?
Well, I think they're going to 4% hell or high water, if I had to put it into 2 boxes. They are data dependent, but that's why they're going to 4%, Steve. Inflation is way too high. Inflation was way too high last year. The Fed had a lot of company, and I was part of it in getting the inflation forecast wrong. But job one, and really I think of the Fed right now, until inflation comes down a lot, the Fed's really a single mandate central bank. The chair made clear the Fed knows that if you squander price stability, it's very hard to achieve and sustain maximum employment. So I think that they are data dependent, and the data's inflation's too high, so I think they're going at least to 4%.
You already squandered it. That's the problem.
Okay, well, right? We can agree to disagree on that.
No, but that's the thing that gets me. It's almost like we're in the soup now. We're in this mess.
Yeah.
So I guess there's no reason to talk about how we got in the mess. But it's just unfortunate that we need to do things that are counterintuitive or counterproductive. We need to raise unemployment. We need to slow the economy. We need to cut off this a great recovery. We need to make borrowing costs higher for entrepreneurs and people that are trying to build businesses that hire people. We're in this mess of cutting off our nose because of, for some reason, and the answer that we're giving, what's that got to do with Putin's price hike? What's that got to do with inflation that's all around the place, caused by other things? So our people here in this country got to take it on the chin to lower inflation. It's not a great way to do business.
Well, no,
Rich.
Joe, and I think if it were just Putin and it were just energy, I think your point would be 100% correct. The problem is that the shock that the economy took globally with the shutdown and the pandemic and the reopening was an enormous shock. It was almost like a war-like shock. So there's been a lot of dislocation, and unfortunately a piece of that is the economy got out of balance last year, in part because of policy and in part because of other measures. And I think Chair Powell is correct that over the long haul, you can't prosper in the economy, as we saw in the 70s. You and I remember the 70s, with high and variable inflation. So I agree, it's not a great place to be in. If it were just Putin, you would be right. But unfortunately, the economy is out of balance now, and the Fed needs to bring demand
interest
back
rates
in supply.
seem too low, and you can't have people taking risks because you can't spawn stupid decisions by keeping rates too low. So I see how we need to get back to a more normal level. But I think the Fed, would you agree that the Fed enabled fiscal policy to run amok?
Well, what I'll say about that, because I was obviously as vice chair during 2021, as I said, 22 million jobs were lost in the spring of 2020, 30% decline in GDP. The Fed was all in. I have no apologies for that. I think given the shock, the Fed needed to be all in. I was not unhappy when the CARES Act passed at the end of March, which was $2.5 trillion. I think what you can say is that as we went through 2021, it became clear, maybe sooner to others than to others, that demand, in part supported by that policy, was out of balance with supply.
We're going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
This effort. And China has big plans for this. They intend to seed their digital yuan into the global environment by giving it away to visitors at next winter's Olympics. When they arrive at the airport, they're going to get yuan digital wallets. They're going to receive digital yuan. They're going to use it throughout their visits to Beijing, and then they're going to take it back to their home countries. They see this as a huge advantage. Why? Because who controls the underlying protocols, who controls the underlying standards of the future of money will control the future of money.
Most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids' books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the fourth industrial revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.